I want to see if you agree with this here. So we saw Tatum's thoughts on this. He believes that it hurts the integrity of the game. It's disrespectful to your opponent to try to run up this score in the last few minutes of the game. Now, I side with Booker. He was asked the same question today, and his response was, I don't see if both teams are on the same page. We both understand that there's more at stake than this one game tonight. There's I think of it as a game within a game. So there's the game tonight, and then there's the game in the in-season standings. So you think of it, if you think of it like that, both teams know what's at stake. You don't have one team trying to just roll the ball out and the other team trying to run up the score. They're both on the same playing field doing the same thing. He's like, hey, if this is the way we're going to think about it, we're both on the same page. I don't see how it's disrespectful to anybody to simply play the game to the final buzzer. It keeps a competitive environment going through the entire game. There's no garbage time. There's no part of the game to where the excitement dips. It stays exciting because there's more at stake than just trying to win that one game. And even if it's a 20-point game, one team is saying like, hey, we need a win differential of 25 to get to the next round. The other team is saying like, we don't want to let them get there, or we can't let our point differential get too low. So if you think of it like that, it creates even more of a competitive environment because there's more at stake. So I side with him. That I said that multiple times on Twitter. I didn't really understand where Tatum was coming from, stating his concerns about it, saying that it's wrong, it's against the nature of the game and things like that. I'm not on board with that. I think it's perfectly fine to run it that way. But how do you feel about that?
I think the concerns about being too showboaty or being hurting the integrity of the game is absolutely insane. And the reason I think Tatum is insane for that take, and anyone that has a problem with it, is because think about what he's saying: integrity of the game of basketball. Well, when you're playing pickup, Aaron, because I played pickup the other night, do you let off the gas when you're up 18 points? No, like you play to win the game. You play to defend it. You go all the way through, and your friends that you're playing with, hopefully, unless they're just sore losers, they don't care that you're continuing to play hard because
Right.
you're on the floor. You're healthy enough to play basketball. It's fun. There should be no hard feelings. I don't think when Devin Booker's pulling up in Memphis and banking a three, he's like hating the Grizzlies, right? Like
Right.
it's the objective of this tournament is to, if you're not going to win your group, which the Suns didn't, it's like, okay, we have to at least clinch ourselves in. We have to clinch the
Yeah.
tiebreaker
The wild
somehow,
card.
do what
Yeah.
we can, right? So it's just another component, and players are going to have to get over that. It's the same
Yep.
thing about Zion dunking on the Suns last year with 1 second left, and they were up
Yeah.
18 or something. Like, who cares? It's for the fans, and I do think, to answer this question on the screen, I do think that it is the best tiebreaker moving forward if we're going to get these type of uh, weird situations where like players like Tatum and stuff are angry or whatever. But I will say, when you start hacking Andre Drummond and all that, like, when you I don't really like that part of it. I'm kind of
Yeah.
with Billy Donovan. I'm actually with Billy Donovan on that. It's
Yeah.
like, what are we doing here? If that's what we're
Yeah.
going to resort to, then again, you can't legislate that out of the game. You can't tell
Right.
Missoula not to do that.
The foul. Yeah. But I mean,
So
that's even more. That's not even like an in-season tournament issue. I think that's just like a general like
yeah,
because we saw the league change the rules in terms of when you can do
yeah.
that. You can't do it in the last 2 minutes of
But I'm saying
the
it
quarter.
does look ridiculously silly if you're doing that up
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
it is a little weird, but maybe we just have to get used to weird.
Is this something else? Like, I mean, there's a lot new. Like, anytime you incorporate something that's new or goes against what has been established in basketball or whatever over a period of time, you're going to have resistance.
Yeah.
That's all this is. So, as far as how I feel about the point differential, I don't hate it. I don't think it's disrespecting anybody to do that. However, I do have an idea for another tiebreaker, at least for the
Okay.
second tiebreaker that we could possibly use going forward. And this comes down to teams' record, regular season record, apart from
Oh.
in-season
Okay.
tournament record. So, and I posted this because I think Matt Moore, yeah. So he threw the question out on Twitter, and then somebody had the response, "How about we go with regular season record?" And I kind of piggybacked off to that, but I had that idea in my mind before I saw that. I think I had that in my mind like yesterday or Tuesday, a couple of days ago. But I basically said regular season record is my preference because number one, it increases the importance of games in between in season tournament days.
Yeah.
So the games are on Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, Saturday. They're even more important. So now instead of getting like peaky games here for in season tournament and then a little bit lower intensity for regular season games, now they all have increased level of importance. And maybe we can increase the competitive level of all games across the board until the in season tournament's over. Number two, I think it eliminates a little bit of the confusion that can become apparent when you're trying to decipher win differential. So,
Yeah.
you'll be listening to a broadcast and it's like, well, if the Warriors win by 11 or more, then they move on. But if they win by less than 11 and you're trying to do the math, like, okay, plus 20, plus 30, minus 5. Like, okay, some people are good at math, Shane. Like, some people just get it. Other people don't. Like,
Yeah.
I asked my mom this when I was visiting my family for Thanksgiving. And I think this is, I don't think it comes down just to point differential, but I asked her, did you watch the in-season tournament games? She said, yes, I have. I have been watching them. I saw the courts. I saw, the jerseys and things like, cool, that's cool. Do you understand what's going on? No, I do not. She did
Yeah.
not understand. I think she had a general understanding. It's like, okay, you have teams that play each other multiple times and you have different rounds or whatever. But I don't think she really comprehended the idea of win differential and
Mm-hmm.
how that impacts team standings, going against, if there's a tiebreaker. I think that part of it just didn't compute. Now, of course, if she wanted to understand, she could. She can do the math. She
Mm-hmm.
can go on the website, NBA.com, and figure it out. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these fans that are watching, they're not like
Yeah.
us. They're not
And
going to watch
imagine,
every game.
you're absolutely right. And imagine the people that are there in the stands. I'm sorry, but they're unless you just don't really care, but like you wouldn't be at the game anyway if that was the case. But you're not gonna be on your phone, on Twitter,
Yeah,
trying to figure out how much you need to win by, trying to figure out who's ahead in the stand. Like it's a lot.
it is a lot.
It's a lot for us. Imagine it's
Yeah. So for
you know,
them,
yeah,
they just give up. They're just like,
yeah,
I'll watch whoever's playing, but I'm not going to try to
yeah.
figure out who's going to move on and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
and what I was gonna say is a potential fix to that is I'm sure they already do it in some cases. A lot of the times now, for transparency, like when I put on a game, I skip the pregame or like I'm zoned out, I'm on Twitter or something, and I just wait till the ball is tipped, so I don't
yeah.
really listen to all the commentary. But I'm
Mhm.
sure they do this, but I think they could do an even better job of every in-season tournament game before tip and all that, like go through everything that matters,
Oh
everything that
yeah,
doesn't matter, like kind of lay it out for the viewer. I'm sure
right.
broadcasts do that, especially national television, but I think
Sure.
every broadcast should.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. It can definitely alleviate some of the confusion that's there. But I think
Yeah.
just due to the fact that that the tiebreaker, the big tiebreaker, is point differential, it's just naturally going to make it complicated for people. So if we do
Yeah.
regular season record, I feel like they can alleviate a lot of that. Now,
Yeah.
Matt's counterpoint to this on Twitter was the fact that teams might have tied regular season records. And if that's the case, we can go to point differential
Yeah.
for another tiebreaker because he mentioned that this could come into play since we haven't played a ton of games, so the likelihood of ties
Hmm.
has increased. But somebody commented this, and I kind of echoed this. We're not starting in game 5 or 6 to where a lot of teams are going to be tied. I think it's just late enough, especially once we get to the end of group play, that you're not going to have a ton of teams tied to regular season records. We see it
Yeah.
right now. You're going to have the Celtics here. You're going to have the Grizzlies down here. You're going to have the Pistons down here. You're going to have teams in the middle, 10-8,
Hmm.
11-7. Like there could be a few ties. I don't see there being any more than 2 or 3. Like if we're looking at all the
Yeah.
different scenarios. I mean, I haven't done it myself tonight, but if we go back and look at the teams that are tied in the group play, I doubt there's a ton of ties there. It's
Yeah.
regular
There's too many
season, right?
scenarios where I think there maybe be one each year, if that.
Yeah, something like
So
that. But if that's the case, then okay, we'll move on to point differential, win
yeah.
differential, and that way we only have to do math once or twice instead of for every scenario to where a team is tied.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand with it. I would like to see it change to this next year. I don't know if they're going to do it. There are merits to win differential. You have the games that are competitive for
Hmm.
longer, like we just talked about. But for the sake of casual fans, for the sake of simplicity, I
Yeah.
do think there's reasons to change it over to regular season record.
I like that idea. I'm not really on Twitter as much during the day, so I didn't see that argument. So it's the first time I'm hearing about that. So I agree with you on that one. I think they should do it for next year. And just make point differential the third tiebreaker, or yeah,
The
I
third,
guess that'd be the third. Yeah. The one thing that I think they could do with that as well is it'd be easy to put a little thing on the screen that says if they tie, Philly gets it because they had like that'd be easy to do versus putting on the screen. Yeah, Philly has to win by 27. Like,
right?
it just I think it'd be easier and cleaner to put it on the broadcast. And that's what we're
Yeah,
ultimately caring about is how can the broadcast explain it? Not how we can, but how can the broadcast?